Hello and welcome back to The Motivating Force. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far. As usual, joining me today we have Josue, an aspiring Marine Corps officer who is finishing up ROTC and his bachelor's degree in the criminal justice field, and myself, Justin, a motivational speaker who's always more than excited to share wonderful topics and ideas with you guys. This Monday we're bringing a interesting conversation to the table, kind of multifaceted here. We're going to be talking about workplace satisfaction, as well as dopamine, the parts that it plays in that, and good old-fashioned hard work. So why don't we go ahead and jump right into that, Josue?
All right, so to start off with this conversation, we should probably explain to people what dopamine is. And in layman's terms, it's that chemical that you relate with pleasure. So it's the pleasure chemical. When you do something, you receive some dopamine and you feel good about doing that, right? But then we were reading as we were doing the research, and in pharmacology, they were saying how that chemical is, it pertains to motivational salience. So then the amount of dopamine you get or you receive shows in comparison to how much work that organism is going to be motivated to do something again or to do something in general. Because the more dopamine you receive from it, the more you're going to want to do something.
Yeah, with dopamine being the reward system for the brain, it comes to no surprise that we have strong ties of research done on dopamine when it comes to the workplace.
Well, yeah, and speaking of the workplace, this is why we brought this topic up, because it's that hard work versus easy work, and why everybody seems so lazy nowadays, for lack of a better term. And I mean, you even brought it up in the point where good old-fashioned work ethic, we kind of don't see that anymore. And then you can go into the discussions about, oh, now people are just trying to make ends meet, and now it's a money issue. So before we continue with this, explain to people why we're not going to be talking about the money perspective of this conversation, because that's the one that everybody seems to draw on.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why I wanted us to stay away from the money talk, was because it's kind of overdone. You know, and that's the only information you can find on it. They just think, oh, money's going to solve it, money's going to solve it. Yeah, money's going to solve it the same way that money solved our healthcare system, right? Just put the money blame on somebody else, don't solve the actual problem. So I wanted to go through and get a different perspective and see where we can actually, locate some of these issues and try to fix this issue. Because for a lot of people out there, getting more money, of course, isn't always the answer. And when it's not, what do you do about it? So we're here to bring some light to that.
And one of the big points that I wanted to hit as well, because money's out of the issue, you always get those, nowadays with the rise in internet and social media and everything, people start to reach out with oh, buy this product because it's the quick fix to this, or it's the quick way to make $1 million, or it's the quick way to write a bestseller kind of thing. So everybody's trying to get that, that easy way out, that now culture that you mentioned before. And that seems to be a problem, because it's kind of dumbing down the generation as a whole. Because when you're looking back at that good old-fashioned work ethic from before, working hard really brings the best out of a person. You feel so fulfilled with that product that you're giving, or whatever it is that you're working on when it's that hard work, because you really get to dive into it. You get to quote unquote lose yourself when you're really working hard. You're putting everything into the book you're writing, into, if you're an actor, if you're doing a play or something, you're really becoming that character, as opposed to just getting that quick handout of here's $1,000 instead of working for the $1,000.
And even when people work for it, I don't think that money plays a big role in that. For people that get the bonuses and the promotions and whatnot, and you actually talk to some really highly successful people, they're not going to sit there and tell you, oh, well, yeah, my boss told me if I did such and such thing, I'm going to get a $1,000 raise or a $1,000 bonus.
Yeah.
So that's why I did it. You rarely hear that. So I don't understand where we make this connection with money solving that issue.
Well, I think it's that quick thing to point the finger at. Let's just pass the buck and pass the blame onto money. That solves everything, like you were saying before.
I did have 2 points where you can point the blame to.
All right.
So, hitting you up with the first one here, I want to talk about pride.
Okay.
Because when you talk about hard work, good work ethic. We talk about people taking pride in their work. And we typically view pride as a negative word.
I view pride as like a pride of lions, but all right.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, would that still not be negative though? If you had like a pride of lions hunting you down, like,
Okay, then yeah.
wouldn't that be the thought that comes
You're
to
right.
mind?
You're right. Yeah.
Okay.
They're out to get me.
So there's still some negative connotations there. So let's bring some light to it. When we talk about pride, there's two definitions for it, and one being a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements, the achievements of those with whom one is closely associated, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. And the second definition being the consciousness of one's own dignity. Now that second definition, that's the drive home point. That's that little, pause for
Dramatic effect.
dramatic effect there I was trying to give, right? And we do tie those two together, right? When we talk about the acronyms for pride, we talk about honor, dignity, self-respect, self-worth. So obviously all these things are heavily tied into what you do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Because
like, how do you define yourself? And that's usually what you're doing. Like, that's your career. It's taking up 60% of your life.
And for a lot of people, like if you're at the point right now where you're talking about job dissatisfaction and you're just saying you're completely in the wrong job, and it's because it's not your career or whatever term you want to throw on it for that, you're really far off from where you need to be. This conversation itself might even be a step ahead for you, because no matter what job you're doing, whatever it is, working, bagging groceries at Publix, either as an 18-year-old or in retirement, right? Life comes full circle.
Yeah.
And there's still pride you can take in that. A job worth doing is a job worth doing well.
Correct.
So no matter what position you're in, and for thinking about the money, right? If it's paying your bills, you should put some respect to that. And don't shame it. Don't put it down, because guess what? It's what you're doing right now, and you're doing it hopefully, at least 40 hours a week.
Yeah, and I was reading somewhere where they were talking about that same scenario, and usually that comes to you're complaining, or what you're saying, it's in comparison to something. So like, I don't like my job right now compared to another job, then you're in the wrong job. Go try to get into the job that you're comparing it to. Unless, you're just somebody that likes to sit around all day and you're going, I don't like to work, period.
Yeah.
Then,
just in there.
Then this doesn't count for you.
I'm going to be an astrophysicist one day, man. Yeah, I get it.
But even if you're not that person, that you're comparing two different jobs and you're just not feeling fulfilled in the career or that job that you're working, I mean, because we've talked about this before in the jobs versus careers episode, but that's probably too far of a scroll for people to go search up. So I'm going to touch on it again. It's to find the little things in that job that make it worth doing. Understanding what the job really entails. Like when I was talking about being a courier for the lab, I'm working in a hospital and I'm just a courier. I'm thinking I'm bringing a tote from this building to this building. I don't know what's in it. I don't know the importance of it all. But then you start asking around. My manager sits with me, tells me like, the person's having a surgery right now, has like a biopsy done. You're picking up the biopsy, taking it to the lab. And the quicker it gets there, the safer it gets there, the more accurate of a result that patient's going to have that's sitting on the operating bed right now. So then that helped me understand the importance of my job and kind of felt more fulfilled doing it instead of just feeling like a zombie.
Yeah, and notice how you're still in the same field.
Same job.
You're still in the same job, the same location. And look at how far you moved up now, where you're almost in a supervisory position and you're taking care of all these things as a lab assistant too, right?
Oh, yeah. Where I've moved to
way
now.
Further up,
Yeah.
Up the ladder. But you get there by asking the right questions, doing the hard work. And that's something that's always bothered me, where people have always been like, oh, but I do all this hard work. I put in my time, I put in my effort, and I don't get recognition for it. Do you not? You know what I mean? Because in my line of work, it's very linear, right? Being a mechanic, you get paid book hours, traditionally. Like, there's a lot of ways that performance is estimated, evaluated.
Yeah.
And it's like, people will sit there and be honest to God, like, oh, I do all this hard work, I've been putting engines in cars, and, that's above my pay grade and blah, blah, blah. But then you actually look down at like how many book hours they produced in that month. And it's like half of the hours that they actually worked. So just because you did a hard job once or two times, it's not consistent. You don't have that consistency there. You get caught up on the fact that you did a good thing once and you didn't get recognized for it, and now you're going to be butthurt about it for the rest of the month. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. But then even taking a step back away from like the typical 9 to 5s that we have, the podcast, right? This is a little bit more on that you want that quick result now kind of thing. Like, we wish we have 1,000 subscribers. We wish we had 100,000 views on every episode, but we understand that's not going to happen, right? But knowing how we try to produce the best possible quality content for everybody, being creatives and like the intellectuals that we're trying to achieve to be, this idea shouldn't be so far and gone for us. Like, hard work is where the best quality content comes from. So if it does take a little bit for us to get our legs on the ground and get that subscriber flow coming in, we understand that that's what we have to do to achieve that dopamine, that huge dopamine release at the end, when we're able to like quit our day jobs and really hone in on this. It's that hard work that people should understand. If you are that creative, like, you get to stretch your imagination to this extreme. You get to think different ways, try to solve problems a little bit differently, that you can even bring that life lesson around to something else, instead of just getting that quick fix of, I just got it done, whatever, next. Because then next time somebody asks you to do something, you're not going to know how to do it, because you're just relying on that same formula from that easy fix, that quick fix.
I like how it all does go back to talking about the now culture type of mentality, where, of course, my little complaint there with it is exactly that. It's well, look what I did now. Right now, this 1 second in time, not my consistency or lack thereof. And then the same thing that you bring to that table, talking about coming from the other end, right? We're doing this out of the goodwill of our hearts at this point, right? Yeah. Like, this isn't the paycheck.
Yeah, but even so, look at the change and the improvements we've had from the very first episode. That very first week was rough, to say the least, and now it's completely different, but it's because we're constantly putting in that hard work.
Hard work is a super important role in your job, and I think that the point that I'm trying to get across with it is getting people to understand what hard work really is. And hard work's not that one-off.
Yeah.
It's consistency. It's the thing that you really didn't want to do time and time and time again, and the recognition does come. And if you're really in a point where the recognition isn't there, say you're in like, this corporate ladder and you're dealing with all these bureaucracies and things are getting held up for you and you kind of want to put the blame on that, there are options to go about that. Have the pride in yourself and the pride in your work, as I mentioned, and bring that to the attention of your higher ups. You get some people like when you talk to your managers about it or whatnot, they'll be more than happy to sit down and explain anything to you about your job. And if you come to them with that pride, that honesty, that integrity, that dignity in yourself, and be like, look, I'm doing these things here. I'd really like to see growth from this. How do we make that happen?
Yeah.
And if they just stiff arm you, there you go. There's your answer. You're in the wrong place.
Yeah. You need to be around people that are going to like bring you up. You need people that can boost that, not boost your ego in like a negative way where you're just getting too cocky about what you're doing, but getting you to feel more confident and safe in the job that you're doing. The same way that you need that close circle of friends that are going to be there to protect whatever it is that you're going to do and support you, you need that in your work environment as well. You can't be under somebody that's just trying to like press their thumb on you all day. You need somebody that's going to help get you to look for that growth in the company. Like, even my manager, he'll talk to me about how I can just kind of go somewhere else that, he'll lose out on having me as an employee, but then I can have that possibility to move up if I go to another department. But that shows good managerial skills and good workplace environment when he's willing to confront me and tell me that.
And I know there is a lot to cover when we get into talking about these characteristics that we want people to bring out to really help improve themselves in the workplace. Here is an external source, which is one of those another things that you can point that finger to. And I'm personally more than happy to point the finger towards this because I've kind of had my premonitions on this for a long time, and that is ethics.
Okay.
More specifically, ethics being taught in schools, being taught to the next generation coming up. Because when we talk about this, I think of Protestant work ethic back in the day versus now, when we kind of try to see where that missing piece kind of fell off of the picture, and we kind of got that degrade in job satisfaction. And thankfully, in the last 10 years, I mean, we've been slowly climbing back up. It's about 3% a year we're going back up.
Yeah, but this is a great point that you're going to be bringing up, because if it all goes back to education and the way that we're taught, it's very controversial because nobody talks about this.
Yeah, and I feel it's like to me, it seems like an obvious issue, but that's the bias, because I go towards that very often. And that's, ethics being taught in schools is one of the major issues because, of course, we have the now culture and the social medias and whatnot that help reinforce this type of teaching as being acceptable.
Yeah.
And it's the furthest thing from it because, schools, their main priority is to pursue academic excellence. Okay. Nothing more. So we're measured by our success in specific tasks and not the above and beyond criteria.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to go and really see what we're interested or see what we like. We kind of, you have to sit down, you have to take these predetermined courses, and just you have to do well in that very specific, spotlight. And then you either pass or you fail.
Yeah, they're not grading you on the path that you're taking to get to the result. They're just grading you on the result. Because I've had teachers that are fantastic teachers where they've taken this, routine into the way that they teach, and they'll sit with me and they'll be like, all right, show me how you got there and I'll tell you where you messed up, instead of just saying, no, that answer's wrong. Like the whole mathematical formula or whatever, like that shows more in like my cognitive learning and how I'm using the problem solving skills that they're teaching me, instead of just going, nope, the answer's 15, wrong, next lesson. You know what I'm saying? Like I understand this point is very important.
Definitely, man, because they kind of leave it up to you to figure it out. And then we translate that 10 years later into the workforce, and it's like, okay, well, I'm not getting a promotion, I'm not getting a raise, I'm not getting recognition, I'm not happy, but I just have to sit down and figure it out. And that's why the first piece of this conversation, I really wanted to make that point of like, take that pride, take that dignity, and use it extrinsically, put it out there. Because people will recognize that at the very least, and you'll get some attention for that. Whether good or bad, it's a reflection on the company that you're working for, right?
Yeah.
So coming back to this, in Florida, where we're at, 60% of teacher bonuses are based off of their students' test scores.
Okay.
So we're
here's your incentive to just pass the kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're literally taking teachers, telling them, oh, you want to teach? Wonderful. They must meet this criteria. They must pass this. They must pass that. And if they don't, your pay is going to suck this year.
Yeah.
So, I'm not here to put the blame on the teachers or anything. I'm blaming the kind of almost like the whole system.
Yeah.
It's systematically incorrect.
Well, if I understand it correctly, because money, not for the teacher themselves, but let's say the better the school rating, right? Like if you're an A school, B school, whatever, the more money the county is going to be able to cut from the county's bill and then give it to the school, right? If it's a public school.
Right.
And then that kind of like umbrellas down, and then the principal gets paid a certain amount, the teachers get paid, but then all depending on how big their success rate is in their class. So maybe that is why that system's kind of broken.
I agree, man, because A schools get the new MacBooks and everything every year, and the F schools just get more police officers.
Correct.
Come on, man. What's that doing for our system? What's that doing for our education? What's that doing for our future? Because that is our future, is those kids. And when we teach them, and it's bad in both ways, because you take these A school kids and you're teaching them that, hey, look, play into the puppet's hand. Don't think too hard about it. Do these things, and people will reward you for it.
Yeah. Well, then if I just wanted to bring this point up too, because if we're saying that the problem is with the way that the teachers are going about how they're teaching, right? Because they're not focused on how you get to the result. They're just worrying about the result. Is the problem or is this conversation supposed to be directed towards the teacher or the county that's adjusting the funds for the school? Because like how I just broke it down, if that's really what's making the teacher act like that, if all counties gave the schools a little bit better pay, would they teach better? Because it's not that the teachers aren't satisfied in their job, it's just they're kind of pressured into getting this quota.
I don't think that paying the teachers more would lead to stronger success in the schoolroom, for the same reason that I don't think like paying you more is going to make you work harder, right? It's not going to make you more satisfied to get that raise. Because if you're flipping burgers and your dream is to paint paintings every day, it doesn't matter if you're getting paid $1 or $1 million an hour, you're not going to be happy doing it. It's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
So in that sense, that teachers kind of do have that higher job satisfaction based off of they're doing what they want to do. They're working with children. They're raising the next generation.
Yeah, that's the other point I was going to bring up. Like if they have that pride in seeing that spark go off in their kids' eyes when they do understand a topic or they understand this new formula, if that's the kind of person that they are as a teacher, then I don't see how the money could affect them. But when they're in that job and they're just kind of teaching to make ends meet, they're not in the right field. As much as they want to try to convince themselves that, yeah, I want to be a good teacher because blah, blah, blah. If you're not the kind of person that finds the pride or joy in seeing kids actually learn something, or teenagers or adults, college, then what are you doing?
You go into job fields, you know around about where you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
It's not like a teacher got their first paycheck and went, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I wasn't looking at criminal justice as a bachelor's degree going, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire. And every class I've taken, this is amazing. Every class that I've taken in the college that I'm in, every professor has either been a cop or is in the criminal justice field. And they'll be like, hey, if you're in this class thinking you're going to be a millionaire at the end of this, you're not. Like, no matter what field you go in, you're not going to be a millionaire. So nobody goes into this with that expectation, which is what you're saying. Like, we have that foresight.
Right. And that's why I throw a lot of that, the money problem out of the window.
Yeah.
And I think what they do with the teachers is they just dangle the money, right? That's the reward. And that's part of the problem. You know, and I don't even want to say it's necessarily like cut the bonuses or something like that, but it's got to be changed, because it's so hard to sit here and say like how to solve that issue, because to me it's a fundamental core problem.
So then what if it's change the requirements to receive that money dangling in their face? What if it's get a better job or class understanding of topics, or instead of looking at the grades, look at something else? I don't know what they can use, but kind of changing the shift on just spotlighting the one answer.
Yeah, because I feel like the whole process is too linear.
Yeah.
And the way I compare this to is when we look at other countries, especially certain like European countries, where taking an ethics course is mandatory.
Yeah.
You either take a religious course or you take ethics. And they're essentially the same course. One says God, one says karma or yourself or the universe, right? And you have to take one. And then you compare our job rate satisfaction to some of these European countries and their job rate satisfaction, and it's through the roof compared to ours.
Well, they also get to take a nap in the middle of their day. I'm kidding.
You know, there are other variables that are at play with it.
Yeah.
There are, but
I understand what you're saying. Like, even the knowledge level, like, their kids are doing, college level courses in high school, and then they go on to the university. Like, I have family members that have come over from, like, Spain or Italy, and they're like, oh, yeah, I did that in 8th grade. I'm like, I'm doing that now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in college. What's going on here?
I'm a grown adult.
Yeah, like, what did I just waste my entire high school, like, experience doing? Like, they didn't teach me anything. But, like you're saying, that falls back down onto the education system as a whole.
And I know it's hard trying to tackle that situation. Like, that's a whole episode on its own to go in and talk about colleges and high school and the way we're developing our youth. But I definitely just to get the message across that I do feel obviously like that's a strong issue with our workplace satisfaction is the way that we're taught growing up. It makes sense. And in the same way that our culture kind of amplifies that and allows that to be deemed more and more successful, or not successful. They allow that to be more and more acceptable.
But real quick on the easy work kind of quick fix of dopamine that I wanted to end this with is kind of comparing it to like social media, because I feel like with that quick fix of dopamine, you're not getting fulfilled as you should with that hard work. That you start to build kind of like a tolerance towards it. And this is something that I've just observed on my own and seen other people in my family. But that social media, it's kind of built into the way that they've made these platforms, that it's short little bursts of dopamine. If it's a video, you find it funny, you laugh, haha, next. You're going to start building a tolerance and you want more and more and more. And what's that going to do? You're going to be glued on the phone all day long. But that's why they built it like that.
Yeah, it feeds into that system. What that makes me think of is back in the day when we had more of that the Renaissance era, and we had these artists and these sculptors, right? They would take commissions that would take like 10 to 14 years to complete. And we have those sculptures and statues now that are in museums across the world, and you have some where they take stone and literally make it look as soft as skin.
Yeah.
You know, it's ridiculous. And it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's like that lineage, that person's legacy is all in that one statue.
Right. And how many of you guys are taking that 10 and 15 year dedication towards yourself, towards your work, to create something that, I mean, like I said, these things are in museums. That 10 to 15 years dedication, hard work, not thinking about anything else, can leave an impact that lasts for hundreds of years, literally, because it's proven and we pay to go see it.
Yeah, then it's like you were saying, or like I was saying about the whole podcast thing. You know, we're putting in time and hard work and sweat. Hey, I'm some blood on my end. But that for the same result, 10 years from now, if we're like big, we have a following and we're trying to put like good or great quality results out there for everybody, and that content's pure for them, that's what matters to us, and we're dedicating all this time for it. We don't need that quick fix. We don't need the 1,000 people to like follow us right now, or the millions of people to follow us right now, because this isn't worth millions of followers, Like, we understand that we're still learning. This is a learning curve for us, and it's a lot of hard work that we have to put into this to become the next, Michelangelo for that statue.
Yeah, my motivation level now is the same that it's going to be in the future. And in the future, whether that's being the same 30 to 40 people we're talking to a week here, or if it's 30 to 40 million people, yeah, I'm going to have the same motivation to get it done. Why? I take pride in what we do here. I love what we do here.
The passion.
This is what's building my self-worth, my dignity, my self-respect. And when you guys can go and find jobs like that help encourage that type of fulfillment for yourself, you're going to start off right off the bat with that motivation that you're already making that $1 million or reaching those millions of people, even if you're reaching one person.
Yeah. But dude, like, if we were to die 20 years from now and all we had to give for our legacy was this, from the way that this is going up and the quality of this content that keeps pushing forward in the future, I'll be happy with that. If I was defined by this podcast or the podcast in general, I'll be fine with that, because I find that same pride, that same dedication and passion for it that you do.
And that's the core understanding. I think that's really the drive home point for the viewers here today, is when you consider what you do for a living, what you work for, what you're producing for society, can you look back on that? Can you be proud of it? Can you let that be your legacy? And if it's not, you got to start asking yourself some questions about why. Because the only way, and I know we talked multiple times before about happiness, but that all comes from you, inside of you. There are things that help amplify that and things that help stifle that. But nobody can force you to be happy. Nobody can force you to be happy at work either. It's the same way it goes. $1 or a million, one person or a million people. You have to get out there. You have to make the meaningful effort, put in that work, create that purpose for yourself in anything you're doing.
And if you want to help us get out there and create this meaningful work for you, then subscribe to the page, like the video, please. Share this with some friends and family. Help share this love and this motivation that we're trying to give off to people. Try to be positive and not negative on your social media feeds. So please do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the page, and share this with all of your friends and family.
We'll be back in on Wednesday as always. Our new videos do come out Monday and Wednesday at 8 a.m. EST. Be sure to check that out. And we're going to continue getting back here on schedule with our Sunday content just as it comes up. You know, we want to make sure we give you guys the best quality work possible, and we're not going to strain ourselves and waste you guys' time. So whenever you guys see a Sunday video come out, definitely check it out. It's some primo content out there.
Remember, check out all of our social media links down below, all of our partners and people that we're affiliated with down in the description as well. Again, we apologize for the dog barkings in the background. It's a very lively place right now, but bear with us. We apologize, and we hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, go and get.